No. Right, now let's move on to the second film review of the evening. I'm sorry, our second film review for this evening is Jupiter Ascending, which is a movie which, describing it, brings us a sly smile to my mouth. But I've got to try and describe this movie in the most coherent and logical way possible, which is intensely difficult, bearing in mind this movie is madder than a box of frogs. Now, this is my little synopsis for it. This is the most logical I can possibly do so for it, bearing in mind that, once again, this movie is just plain crackers. The movie is about a young woman called Jupiter Jones, played by Mila Kunis, who, after nearly being killed by aliens, is saved by Kanan Wise, who is a splice, which is a mix between a human and a dog. She's saved, and she learns thereafter that she is, in fact, an intergalactic space princess who is the heir to the planet Earth, which she must now protect from the rest of her extended space family from turning the human race into goo. Ta-da! Oh my god, this movie is strange. And that's me trying to make it as coherent as I can. The honest answer as to what this movie is Channing Tatum playing a space cop wolf man with wings, though those wings get chopped off when he tries to eat somebody, who now flies about on rocket boots, and Sean Bean is a bee. That's what this movie is, which makes the movie sound infinitely better than it actually is. And I'm going to be honest with you, this movie isn't bad. I quite enjoyed this movie. I'm not 100% sure whether I enjoyed it on genuine reasons, in the same way that I enjoyed the Shaun the Sheep movie, or whether I joined this in the so bad it's good kind of sense. But even then, it's not terrible. There are moments in it which are just plain ludicrous. Most of them are scenes, any scene with Eddie Redmayne in it. You may remember, cast your mind back a few weeks ago when I reviewed Theory of Everything, that I was very, very supportive, very beguiled, bejozzled or whatever, beguiled rather, Eddie Redmayne's performance in that. I thought it was fantastic, and I even said that you get the feeling that with this, A Star is Born. With this movie, you get the feeling that a career has just died. It is remarkable to go from having such a brilliant, well-measured, great physical performance in The Theory of Everything to being this, where he goes about like Ming the Merciless with constipation. He goes about like this, very stiff and whispering as he sticks his chin out, not really saying anything of great emotion, apart from when he goes angry, and then he goes back to being rather mumbly and whispery. Everything that he's in is chewing the scenery, which may be why he's got constipation. It is a remarkable movie. There are moments in it where I do get flashes of the prequel trilogy, mostly because most of this movie does feel like a great sci-fi CGI spectacle, and there's very little about the movie which gives us any kind of emotional connection to it. Both Channing Tatum and Mila Kunis are flatlines within this, which is intensely disappointing, particularly from Channing Tatum, as the last movie that I saw him in was Foxcatcher, and the last movie I saw Mila Kunis in was Black Swan. To see them effectively slumming it, along with Eddie Redmayne just slumming it in this movie, is remarkable. This is a movie by the Wachowskis, the people that made The Matrix, and, if we're honest, very little else of credible note. I did enjoy parts of this movie. The action sequence I found to be genuinely fun, had a great energy to them, not the same kind of kinetic energy that we had in the Kingsman movie, but a different kind. It felt more like a science fiction movie, a proper science fiction movie, than, to be honest, we've actually had in quite a while. Probably it's between this and Guardians of the Galaxy, which actually feel more like classic sci-fi action movies, rather than the deep, brooding, shaky cam, angry Spock thumping Khan on a floating barge that we got in the Star Trek movie a couple of years ago. I did enjoy this movie for the action side of it, but everything else of it was just a massive flatline and disappointment. There are moments in this movie which just feel odd, just felt very stark. There is a moment which we have this very Brazil-esque bureaucracy sketch sequence, which itself is funny, and even has a cameo appearance by Terry Gilliam, but It feels like a moment just taken out of a different movie. It feels like a very light-hearted, very upbeat and wacky moment in a movie which isn't exactly brooding, but it doesn't really have any warmth or emotion to it whatsoever. I wouldn't have minded it being brooding and deep and dark, as long as there'd been some kind of emotion to derive from it. I did enjoy it. There are moments that do feel as though you're watching some kind of 1940s, 1950s film serial like Commando Cody or Phantom Creeps or something like that, but it lacks the charm that those had with it. It is a ludicrous movie, weird and odd, but it's never really in a terribly enjoyable kind of way of it. It lacks camp in some regard, which I would have gone with. I'd have loved a little bit of camp in this, but it isn't. There are bits in dialogue. There's a bit where a lizard man gets stabbed in the tail, and as he's looming over Channing Tatum's werewolf character, he says, "You hurt me." So that's supposed to be deep and creepy and scary. I'll be honest with you, I did enjoy this movie immensely, but I can't recommend it. Which feels like some kind of great logical fallacy in my brain, like a robot's just gonna explode, because I love the movie, I found it fun, but I can't realistically recommend it because it is all over the place. And it is way too long. It's nearly 2 hours long. There's no point seeing it in the cinema because it's going to be way too expensive for you to see it in the cinema. If you're going to see it, wait till it comes out on DVD. In the meantime, there's no real point. And to be honest with you, the movie's flopping horribly, so you'd be lucky to find a cinema playing it in the first place. It's a sad state of affairs. Had this movie been a little bit more solid, had there been a bit more humour to it, or any kind of emotion to it, it would have been a recommendable movie. But as it is, it's flatline for most of it, with action sequences which are good. Sometimes they defy the laws of all kind of physics and reason and common sense, but they are enjoyable, but there's nothing to it which can make me say, oh, it's great, it's fantastic, it's a must-see movie, because sadly, as much as I enjoyed it, it isn't must-see.